But yeah, no, like these power games with Sneako, again, it's like this guy, he really doesn't have that much leverage. And what needs to be understood is that Nick is almost kind of got a scare where he almost got deleted from Rumble. Okay, basically okay, when you're playing power games, the big thing that you need to be careful for is the government, because the government can fuck you in almost every single way. Okay, and this isn't me feeding into libertarian ideology, it's just a fact, right? Like, again, with the police have a monopoly on violence. This is literally how it works. Like, you can't fight a cop. Does that make sense? If you fight a cop, you'll die, right? So in that context, what happens on Rumble when Nick has literally hosts a white nationalist rally and says they're all gonna die, you know what I mean? Like, obviously we know what he's talking about. The FBI calls the CEO or whatever of Rumble, and he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? And then the CEO of Rumble talks to Sneako, and he's like, Sneako, why the fuck were you there? What were you doing?
You think that happened?
No, that did happen. That's actually what Sneako said.
Happen?
No. Yeah, Nick got suspended for a little bit on Rumble, and Sneako literally said, like, you guys realize, like, the FBI watches some of these, right? Like, and that's true. They do, because like, let's be real, like, it comes like a different level when Fuentes is alone and he's just kind of like talking and he's kind of, you know, going on a coherent rant, and then you see a guy who's like on stage saying we're gonna kill them all, and it's like a massive cheering, you know what I mean? Like,
the typical streams aren't being covered by Right Wing Watch, but when when it's like Capitol related stuff, or it's like an IRL rally with people, then it's like, oh, it's Charlottesville too. People basically see it as. Now, one thing somebody pointed out in chat, SP pointed out, that basically Jinxie put on Sneako to his podcast, and I have to agree with that. Okay?
That's interesting. Yeah, go on.
My impression of that podcast was that Jinxie was being a bit disingenuous with his intention of having him on. I think the reason he had him on is because he's starting out a podcast. He just had Moist Critical on. He wanted to have the most controversial figure he could possibly have. From the stream, there's this part when he said something to the effect of, he like said, there's obviously stuff I disagree with you on, and the Sneako was like, well, what do you disagree on? And Jinxie kind of fumbled his words. He didn't seem like he had very much to say.
Yeah.
And my theory on why he didn't have much to say is he basically doesn't fucking watch him or know a lot about him, apart from the fact that he's controversial. He decided to just pick him out of a hat and have him on. That's basically it, because he knew it would get some level of views, because it's like, oh, Sneako, controversial guy. I've just done a bunch of well-liked guys like Queso. He did Sketch and whoever else, people like that after at Queso. Like, so it makes sense to have a controversial guy on, even if, like, I don't think he knew almost anything about him.
Yeah, and this is he kind of knew a little bit, like he knew the surface level shit, and when I say surface level, I mean
he knew like what in the average. He knew what like my brother knows about.
So and exactly, and what your brother knows about Sneako is what Penguin Zero said. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's basically all he could go down, which is like, oh, you said depression isn't real.
Yeah, and so. And this is not me disrespecting Penguin Zero. It's just a fact. It's like, okay, he does not take like that deep. Like, Penguin Zero does not go that deep into any real issue. No. Does that make sense? Like, he is, and it makes sense. He's appealing to the masses, right? So like, you don't need to get that deep when you actually have like a massive audience, right? Because the more specific,
it was just fun. It was fun drama, right?
Yeah.
He didn't even go after Sneako for anything in particular, apart from the cuties thing, which is like the least defensible position that Sneako has.
It's the easiest one. Like, let's be real. Like, it's the most easy one to make a moral grandstand that's not that deep. You know what I mean? Which is fair enough. Like, it makes sense, right? Like, if, again, we're talking power games, like, YouTube drama is power games. It's just different because it's in front of people. So it's like very, very different than like behind the scenes power games, because it involves influence, and like influence is really like, you can't control it as easily. But anyway, the point is though, is that like, like basically Jinxie guaranteed, almost completely guarantee, the only context he really had was Penguin Zero's beef, okay? And so in my mind, I'm watching that podcast, I'm like, this is boring in my mind, because I know what Sneako believes, and I know what I would press him on, and Sneako accepted Jinxie's podcast only because he knew he could get his audience of kids to pay attention to Rumble. He's a very, like, Sneako's conscious of influence. He understands this. He's been an influencer for 10 years, right?
When you remember the Soy Boy collage, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
When I was on that, he made the case that the reason why he wants to shit on the Soy Boy guys is because he can own them and then get people to come from YouTube to Rumble, which is why he would do the responses to all of them. Yeah. The reason why he said he wouldn't debate me is because he said nobody in his chat was talking about me, and I found that really interesting, because he openly was like, let's debate, and then none of the Rumble people really knew who the fuck I was. Yeah.
And so let's be clear, Tom. Let's be clear. I was paying attention to all of that, okay? And I learned a few things, and exactly what you just stated is correct, okay? He would fall back on the fact that his chat doesn't give a fuck, it's not interesting to them, that it won't gain him any clout, all this shit. And so, yeah, that's why when I had my little confrontation with Sneako, for like 2 weeks, all his chat was talking about was like fucking, you know, like anytime anything went weird or went wrong in their Discord or on whatever, they'd be like Gokanaru, like what is Gokanaru here or whatever the fuck. Like they would kind of like lean into him. That's why I wanted to take the fight to his audience, because my goal was to take his fucking audience, like in a real way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
you did?
Yeah, 100%. The first 30,000.
You gotten like emails or?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten like people in the Discord and all this shit, but the real point is that whether I got them in any grand way, I meant more like they watch my shit, right? Like they actually watch. And so the first like 30,000 views of the Sneako video, like it initially had a really harsh like to dislike ratio, because again, Sneako released the video on his stream. He literally premiered my video, you know what I mean? And so instantly, right? Like what happens when Sneako bitches out of watching that and everyone can tell that he's freaked the fuck out? Well, they instantly just went to my channel and just watched the rest of it because Sneako was a bitch and he backed out. And so there have been like mods of Sneako. There's a mod that fucking like turned whatever. I don't care really about that shit. It's more to me about sending the message of like what Sneako is doing with Jinxie is he is entering Jinxie's domain and trying to steal his fucking audience. I did the exact same thing to him, and so that's why Sneako block me, right? Like it's different. Yeah. There's a difference. I don't know if he blocked you.
No free clout.
No free clout. Yeah, but like I don't know if he blocked you, but
he did not. But also like I didn't pester him at a certain point. I was just like, oh, he doesn't want to do the combo. He's a pussy. I'll say that and then move on. Right?
Well, let's be clear. I've made less videos about Sneako than you have. You know what I mean?
Have you?
Yeah.
We could say you spent more time on Sneako than I have, and we can. Okay, here's another thing we could say. You infiltrated his community directly with like the puppet bit or whatever, with like fucking with him, getting him to watch the video. I've never done that, so I'm not like a forever tarnished name to him, right?
Yeah, no, you're not. He's not scared of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like he doesn't really have a reason to be, because like once again, like in sort of a way that Critical is, I'd say my analysis is somewhat deeper than his, but but I'm not like dissecting his entire career. There's nothing that I said in any of my videos that like somebody who likes Sneako would like change their fucking mind. Right?
Yeah. Like this is what needs to be understood. Like. And again, I'm viewing this in a very, like, you could say autistic or, like, just hyper-analysis. But this is kind of fun for me, you know what I mean? I do like these power games. But, like, what occurred with that, like, game show thing was, like, a power game, you know what I mean? Like, Sneako felt like he was in control because he was doing a desktop stream. And desktop streams are where you have a lot of control, right? But, like, I took the control away from him when he already signed up to reacting to this fucking video. And the chat was fucking with the video. And he had to be like, no, fuck this shit. And then immediately, what does he fall back on? The cope, right? Like, this guy has long hair, he's gay, he's white, you know what I mean? He falls back on the copes, but the copes don't land because they clearly saw in front of everybody that he, like, you know, lost or whatever. He, like, kind of had to back down, if that makes sense.
Right. Was chat like, oh, you're owned?
Yeah. I mean, Sneako's chat. Yeah. Like, that's what it was. Like, it was two things, basically. It was, like, people who were sympathetic to him, and they were just like, damn, this dude's creepy, which is fair enough. I totally understand why they would say that. but the majority was people being like, face your past, you know, you got to do this shit. And so like, or they were like, bro, Sneako, what are you doing, bro? This is content. And so, yeah, that's the big thing is like, I brought content to him and then he had to like reject the content, which is not what he's used to, right? Like that's how it all happened. Like I would not have gotten featured, or that game show wouldn't have happened if it wasn't content. You know what I mean? Like that's how I view it, where it's like, I understood how to get to Sneako, and it wasn't by glazing him, it wasn't by whatever, it was literally just providing him content, you know what I mean?
So this morning I was at the gym and I was listening to the Baited podcast, and it was the one where it was the one from like the week that the Leafy content cop came out, right?
Yeah.
And they were talking about the premise of the video. And back then, a big thing was like an exposed video. Like you're exposing someone. You're bringing up something people don't know, right?
Right.
And they made the delineation in that podcast that it wasn't an exposed video because the point of the video was basically to bully the bully, right? He didn't really bring up anything anybody didn't know. He was basically just like, I'm going to show that this guy who like acts tough and like bullies people is actually an insecure pussy, right?
Yeah. It was a role reversal, yeah.
Is that kind of the mentality with your video to a large extent? Like, because obviously you had points against him, you dissected his kind of ideology and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of the video was kind of just like, dude, you're a fucking pussy.
Yeah. No, that's facts. Yeah, I was basically trying to coax a response from him, or I was like basically challenging his masculinity, if that makes sense. Like in a way, right? Like, okay, here's the big thing, and you can feel free to disagree with me, but like, when these guys, especially red pillars, talk about masculinity, what they are talking about is power. That's what they are talking about, okay? They want women to be
power over other people?
Yeah, that's what power is. Power is not real. So here's the big thing that people confuse. Power is not real. Power is a relationship, okay? It doesn't exist. But you have power if you can influence someone based on a relationship you have to them. Does that make sense? Like, what is power? Like, I guess you could say that power is like being physically strong, but like in this day and age, what we really understand is like being physically strong is the lowest level of power. Like the second
because you can't exert physical strength over anyone without going to jail anyway.
Well, exactly. You can't do it to a cop. That's for sure. You'll die. You can't do it to a person unprovoked, or else you'll go to jail. If you can maybe in the self-defense context, but if it's not self-defense, you're fucked. But the big point is though is that power is like violence. You only ever resort to violence, like if we're talking power games again, when you've lost power. Like violence is not an act of power. Violence is a tool to gain back power, right? Because power is not real. It's a relationship. And when you're violent to someone, you change the relationship you have to them to being them basically respecting you more because they understand if you step out of line, I'm going to fucking hurt you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, but the big thing that I'm getting at with that is basically the idea that, like a guy like Sneako, he understands a little bit about power, right? But like at the end of the day, when they're talking about masculinity, like that. Oh, by the way, do you like my Paw Patrol sticker?
Yeah, that's super cute, dude.
Thank you, bro.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, I got drip. But anyway, the point is that when you're talking about masculinity, that's literally like the way they talk about it. It's literally just power, right? And it's kind of weird. It's kind of funny because. And it's true when you listen to what they describe as like femininity, that's like subservience to power. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like their sense of what a relationship is like, why would I want a woman who's gonna annoy me or challenge me? I just want a woman who like will stay at home and whatever else. And I don't think that being a stay-at-home mom is necessarily a bad thing, but I think what people fail to realize is that even in the 50s and 60s, like these stay-at-home moms had power, and the power was over the household and
exactly. You understand
like that,
bro. You're totally nailing it. Go on.
Well, the reason I understand this is because in my personal life, my mom is like a girl boss, but like my neighbors growing up, like the woman there, I would see the way that she would interact with the husband, even though she wasn't working. She had a career before she had kids. She chose to no longer have a career because she wanted to have basically the influence and power over the house, over the kids, over certain things. And they had a very separated role. It wasn't like the man was doing everything, right? And I think what Sneako advocates for is basically this idea that like you just need someone who you can push out of the way. You can get what you need from them, which is sex essentially, and that's it. And everything else is just like dismissed basically. And that's why he's okay with, once again, like back in the 50s and stuff, obviously people cheat, but it wasn't encouraged or like among relationships, it wasn't like a cool thing to cheat on your wife. That was very frowned upon. Infidelity was even more frowned upon then than it is now. You know?
Right. Yeah.
But the reason why Sneako likes that is because once again, you have power over the woman. You're able to do whatever you want sexually. It doesn't fucking matter, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. It's about leverage, power, whatever. And so this is where I get to the kind of thesis, and again, that's why I was saying like, is it me bullying the bully? Yes, but it's more about me taking power away from the person who's trying to present themselves as powerful, because we need to understand. It is a veil. Like, it's not that I was just bullying Sneako because I wanted to bully Sneako. It's that Sneako is bullying people and pretending to have power, and I stripped that away and I exposed that he actually doesn't. Does that make sense? And I exposed the facade. It's all an illusion for him, right? Yeah, it's an illusion. And the big thing, again, most people can see that because Sneako is a low level, kind of like on the power scale. He is low level, right? But his audience, they might not have seen that. So I needed to do that for his audience. That was the challenge. And that's difficult. Let's be clear. That's difficult. When he has control, he does have a high degree of control over his streams. But anyway, the point is, though, is that like when we're talking, like you are nailing it, by the way, which is that everybody has power. Every single person has power. If you don't, you're basically just dead. You know what I mean? Like, but the question is, how do you kind of use it, right? Like a mother has a ton of power over a guy if she's pregnant, right? Assuming the guy cares about the offspring, if that makes sense, right? Like, again, this isn't me, this isn't an anti-woman angle, but there is a phenomenon where, yes, sometimes women will purposely try to get pregnant without consulting the guy in order to basically anchor themselves into the relationship with the guy. Does that make sense? Right. Because they understand that is like a way for them to gain power. Do you know? And again, people aren't this conscious. People are not this conscious of it, but it is real, right? So like in the case of, and you were nailing it, like, okay, so a weird relationship of power is, picture this, right? Like, okay, so if you are an only child, okay, this is why a lot of people try to kind of understand what is the only child phenomenon, because only children do kind of act a bit differently than people who grew up in bigger families. And the only child phenomenon in my mind, again, this is all according to me, so feel free to jump in, but like
Well, the thing in that situation is they inherently are born with power because they just get attention for existing. Versus somebody with siblings, like it's divvied up. There's never as much attention as you want. Like I remember when I was younger, feeling the clear shift between me and my younger brother because once he got to the age where he needed more attention than me, so I was like 7 years old and we just moved to a new town basically, right? Yeah. And it was my little brother's birthday, right?
Yeah.
And on he was turning I think 3 because I was 7 or. Yeah, he was turning 3, and we're 4.5 years apart. So he was turning 3. I'm 7 years old. For his birthday, my dad gave me a Nintendo DS. So now why the fuck would he give me that for his birthday?
That's weird.
The reason why I realize now, and I've even asked my dad about this, and he's confirmed it to me, is because he was like, okay, this is the last time that you're going to get the single child, the only child treatment, because now the attention is going to be diverted to your brother who needs more focus because he's younger than you, right? He's entering school soon. He needs more attention. So I was basically given the Nintendo DS as like kind of a last huzzah of being the spoiled only child. And that's why I got that. And now I have another power example of something I've realized over the jilted ex, which it seems sort of intuitive, but I'll just explain this. So in the Kai Cenat situation, or in any situation where, let's say, a powerful man is like a jilted ex is coming after them, and it's not on the basis of like he abused me, he beat me, or something, or it's a false allegation, right? Why do they do this? A lot of people will say, oh, well, it's clout, it's attention. They want attention for whatever, right? The actual answer, I think, most of the time is that if you're a powerful man, if you have money, if you have influence, you can basically leave a relationship and not have to really worry about it that much. Yeah. Obviously, there's emotional harm that comes to you. But if you can get past that, you're going to be just fine, right? If you can get rid of that fucking, whatever. The reason that the woman does this, the reason she comes out publicly is because she can't affect him within the paradigm of the personal relationship. Right. It doesn't fucking matter to him whatever she does. She can say whatever she wants. It doesn't matter. But his career is the thing that's keeping him afloat. His career is the thing that's keeping him separated, that allows him to escape that and not have to worry about it. Because if he didn't have that career, maybe he'd be broke. Maybe he would have to still live with her or something. But if you have that money and you have that career, you can escape basically any situation spontaneously, right? So the reason the woman does this is because the only power she can exert over him to get his fucking attention is to go public.
Yeah, and so this is, in my mind, what hate is, like real hate. And so this is just me talking, but like love, in my mind, is like self-sacrificing for the betterment of another person. Hate is when you try to take someone down, basically, for like a gain to yourself. Does that make sense? And you can view that as just a power game. Like you don't need to say it's like love and hate, but like you're right. That is a relationship with, and again, this is like semi-rare that this happens, but people, again, on a subconscious level, they understand these games. And someone who is suddenly, released from a relationship, and it could have been in a really bitchy or like shitty way, right? Like a guy can be a total dickhead and like just say fuck off. Like there is some power that the person who was just jilted can have over that guy, right? Like again, with Kai Cenat, there's probably a lot more to the story. The what actually happened, we can say, is pretty black and white. Like that's a bitch move by the woman, right? But there's like a lot that goes into it. Like love can turn into hate really easily as well. Like it's like a weird kind of thing. But if we're talking about pure power games, like the only child thing is really interesting, because the second that you have brothers, and this is what I'm going to frame it in a bit of a different way, okay? Because I like what you were saying. You're really nailing this shit. I love it. This is great. But like the weird thing is not necessarily that your dad was like consciously like, okay, now the power is shifting to your younger brother. It was more so that like you did lose a lot of power by your brother entering the picture. But what was that power over? Yes, it was over your fucking parents. And so this is a weird thing that happens with only children, is that they will realize at some point, they will subconsciously realize they actually have a fuck ton of power over basically, the parents in the household, which usually it would be the opposite relationship. But like, again, people say this about babies too. Like babies are extremely powerful because they get whatever they want. That's true. And that's kind of not true. Because babies, I don't know, they do get what they want, but they can't like really think about.
And they get whatever they want, but also there's nothing to stop you from, dropping them on their head like Onision's child.
Yeah, exactly. But like
fucking diving out of the battle bus in Fortnite right into the pavement. Holy shit.
Just like kick it in the head, see how far it goes. Like,
dude, he was going for tilted towers. I maintained that child. Onision did nothing wrong. He was he was trying to go to Shady Shoals or whatever to get the fucking chug jug.
Yeah. But like, okay, so what ends up happening is that you didn't realize that you had the power you had over your parents, like consciously.
Until it was gone.
Gone. And that's usually how power works, unfortunately, right? It's hard to regain it when you always had it, you know what I mean? And it's taken away. But the thing with an only child is that they actually never lose that power over their parents. They never do. And the reason is because their parents, it's like all the eggs are in the basket for them, right? Does that make sense? All like the parent, again, this all assumes the parent gives a fuck about the kid, but when it's an only child, they have way more incentive to give a fuck, because if your kid dies, your legacy is dead, you know what I mean? And so like an only child will have this weird kind of sense of entitlement where it's like they are so used to having power in their relationship with their parents that, yeah, they become like really good businessmen, really good people, whatever, because they just assume this role of like, I am powerful. And so here's what I'm bringing this to, is that there are people who are naturally...
See, that's interesting, because I found that only, like, most of the only children I've known have become fucking losers because they were good at everything.
Yeah, but this is another thing, like, okay, you're right. This is like a big thing. Like, okay, think about this, right? Okay, so what kind of guy does it take to, like, fuck a 15-year-old, okay?
I mean, there are a few types of guys.
Yeah, most of the time, what do you think of when you think of basically, we're just going to say pedophile. Like, what do you think of when you think of that?
Well, there's a distinction, because I think for colloquial reasons, we can probably call them both a groomer, or, you know, I don't have no problem with someone calling a 30-year-old who fucks a 15-year-old a pedo. I'm not going to feel bad for that dude. But I think the distinction is that there's the pedophile that's exclusively attracted to children, and then there's the guy who like is willing to be with someone like that, either because they lack sex in their life before their fame or whatever, or something like that. Like there is a distinction. Yeah. Obviously, both are still horrible. I don't think we should feel bad for these guys, but yeah.
I'm not taking this from like an angle of sympathy, empathy, whatever. It's just like, okay, the raw reality of the type of person, this archetype. Usually, when you think of a pedo, you think of a fucking loser, right? Like that's kind of what I go to, at least. You usually think of someone who is a fucking loser in like almost every, you know, kind of normal context. And what we do usually attribute being a loser to is like having no power, right? So like, what does a guy with no power, he might not have money, he definitely doesn't have women, whatever. What is he going to do? He's going to try and gain power over a woman because he, like, I guess, wants to have sex or wants to control her.
Well, the question is, what about the guys who get famous and have a bunch of money and then they end up doing that?
Yeah.
They have power.
Exactly. So thank you. And so Tate fucks, allegedly, 15-year-olds. Okay, I put a confession of him saying that in the Sneako video. Again, not full confession, whatever, but the fact is he absolutely fucks 16-year-olds, okay? And as like a 30-plus-year-old man, all right? And so why would a guy like Tate do that? Tate is not a loser by almost every single metric. He is considered a guy who is highly competent and who is a winner, right? He literally constantly reaffirms to himself and to his audience, I'm a fucking winner, you're the loser, right? Why the fuck would Tate be fucking 16-year-olds? And the reason is, because he is a predator. He is a real predator. And I say this in not like the same context that we call people predators, like just that they want to fuck kids. I say this in a literal, like almost animal mindset, where it's like Tate, like a predator understands power games extremely well, and so does a prey, okay? Like this relationship, they understand it extremely well. There's no talking out of it. It's like, again, it's like the predator wants something, he's trying to take it from the prey, and the prey basically has to protect it, okay? And so again, I'm not getting, this isn't me getting hippy dippy. This is like the reality of how a guy like Tate would think, is like he is oriented around this predator mindset where it's like he actually doesn't really give a fuck how he gets there. He just wants what he wants. And what does he want? He wants to dominate. He wants a woman who he can have complete power over. Does that make sense? That he can
who better than someone who
exactly, who better than someone
understand what's going on.
Literally, who better than someone who is too young to understand any of these dynamics is, I guess he says, the weird thing, man, a lot of these right wingers, and the reason, it's so funny, man, the reason that I spent so much fucking time looking at these guys is because they are truly really, really interesting, because they do understand power dynamics really well, okay? And so, again, a lot of these right-wingers, they fixate and they state this, and I'm so confused. Why do they always talk about wanting to fuck 16-year-olds?
Why do they show their hand,
Yeah, why do they always talk about wanting to fuck 16-year-olds? And
do you think it's because, like, they just like that they get away with it, and they know that no one can stop them? Is that it?
Well, it's that when a predator's, okay, again, I'm using this word too liberally for like the public, but like you guys understand the context. It's like kind of an animal type predator mindset. When a predator is so used
the gorilla.
Yeah, basically when a predator gets too comfortable, the predator's not used to being on the defense, okay? They're not used to being on the defense and like covering their tracks. They're just used to getting what they want, right? So they'll get really uncareful. Does that make sense? Like, I think you get what I'm saying, where it's like the difference is though, is that when you're online, then
you've been on top for so long, you think you can't even conceive losing.
Yeah, but when you're online, you are being examined. And when you're examined, being examined is powerful because other people can get privy and understand what you're doing. But again, a guy like Tate, he was underground for so fucking long. Bro, the shit he was saying, the most extreme shit that Tate said was when he was pretty much irrelevant. He was in these like really weird niche circles, which were, again...
That's when I started watching him, funnily enough. That's when I found out about him.
Same, yeah. I mean, but you're like, it's funny because my first time meeting Tate was through Moist Critical. Like, Moist had an interview with Tate, okay?
He did?
Yeah, and he removed it. It's funny because Moist Critical...
was it on the official podcast?
Yep, yeah, it was like 5-6 years ago. That was my first intro to Tate, and at that time, it was just like goofy, this guy's so funny because that's what Critical was doing.
Who would take it seriously, right?
Exactly, but then somehow this guy who, again, the circles that Tate was operating in were people who really, really understood power games because they're predators, okay? And again, I say that like... Just understand what I mean by that is that they are people who care way more about getting what they want than how they get there, okay? And that's why Tate spawned from these pimping circles, because he understands basically the fundamental principle of like, what is the most that you can dominate a woman, okay? Because he's, again, about domination. This is the goal. The goal is to have complete power over someone, which is domination. You exploit their body for money, so you financially gain from it. You basically keep them at home. They don't have friends, and they can't basically like talk to other people. Obviously, you have a ton of leverage then because they can't like even realize that this is fucked up. You will keep them in front of a camera for viewers. You know what I mean? So like basically their appearance is like the most important thing. And of course, you can take away a girl's appearance by hitting them. Does that make sense? And so there are videos of Tate hitting women, slapping women in the face, all this shit. And it's like, that is an act of domination. Like, that's facts. Again,
in fairness, wasn't that in the context of like having sex with them or whatever?
Allegedly. Again, I'm not saying that as like, oh, Tate, is a woman beater. I'm just saying that is his fetish. Like, that is a known thing. Does that make sense? Like, it makes sense. It's a guy who's obsessed with domination, and so his fetish is like to physically. Again, what's the lowest level of gaining power over someone? It's physically. Does that make sense? So it's like am I being coherent, or is this kind of too much? Because what I was bringing that back to is basically the idea of like, yes, you exploit the woman's body, you make money off of it, okay? You can literally keep them at the house. They never see other people, basically. They work for you. So like, again, that's another social circle that you're dominating. And then guess what? You can impregnate them and keep them at a different house. And then only when you want to basically fuck them, because God forbid, like I doubt that he really, even wants to talk to them that much. Maybe he does. I don't fucking know him.
Lochan said, "Where was this Gokanaru on Kick or Keep?" I agree. Where the fuck was it? You need to say something like, "How do you take away women's appearance by hitting them?" But say that on Kick or Keep.
Yeah, but do you understand the problem with Kick or Keep is that I am a long-winded fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like I'm going somewhere.
You just need to pull out like the funniest things you can possibly say. I think.
Yeah, but when I say this shit.
I'm not saying it to be funny, but it is funny.
No, I know it's funny. Like, I know we're in front of an audience. That's like, I'm kind of fucking around a little bit with like the words and stuff, but like the point is on Kick or Keep, like it is literally, if I just say the punchline, it's just so much less funny to me. You know what I mean? Like,
fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Kick or Keep is tough for me, bro, because like when I'm trying to like follow a train of thought, like I'm really like trying to get to this destination. I'm trying to like explain it properly.
It's a story, yes.
Yeah. Whereas on Kick,
there's a narrative to it. Yeah.
On Kick or Keep, it's actually a debate, right? Like you helped me get to where I'm at right now with this conversation. But like on Kick or Keep, there'd be like 6 people trying to derail it. You know what I mean? It's tough. But anyway, I'm working on it.
But it's also like it's just getting out like the words in the shortest amount of time possible.
Yeah.
So Wes, by the way, can't fucking scream over you, right?
Yeah, and like. That's fair. That's just the rules of the game. You know what I mean? That's why I'm trying to like get better at it.
The extended release Adderall hit too late.
Is that me?
Really. No. Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious. I mean, okay, I don't know. Is everyone enjoying the conversation? Because I haven't looked at my chat and like.
I am enjoying the conversation.
Okay, I guess that's all that matters then. Fuck you guys. But yeah,
literally, fuck the fans, like Keemstar says. Fuck
no, literally. Yeah, this is actually a rule that I have. Like, if I'm having a good conversation, I'm sorry to my chat, but like I just don't care like what they think, if that makes sense.
Well, okay, so let's explore the power thing from your perspective. What are forms of power that you're trying to gain and exert? Because obviously you need power to get anything done.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so again, this is a big thing. Like, okay, how does somebody? This is complicated because there's so many players. Okay, there's so many players at like going on, and it's like, okay, man, fuck. Ooh,
how about money?
Right, so money. Okay, so this is a big thing. So how how much of your power, Tom, like we're talking money, how much of your money is wrapped up in YouTube? Okay.
You mean like how much
of the
from YouTube?
How much of the money that you make, your income, is basically from YouTube? And I'm talking about YouTube, literally the website, not just like other platforms, sponsors, whatever.
All of it.
Right. Okay. Exactly. And so YouTube has a fuck ton of power over you. Okay.
Oh yeah. Of
and
course.
so that's why and you've said this before, and it's completely makes perfect sense that you would say this. But like, there's one point where you were a little bit paranoid about getting deplatformed, and that's fair. Like, trust me, like that is a real thing that can happen, as we've seen. But like, it makes sense that you would take measures to basically be more fucking careful, knowing that YouTube has the power to fuck up your life that badly.
There is a hand that feeds, my friend.
There is absolutely a hand that feeds. Yeah, and like,
for everyone I've talked to be clear, I don't think I hold any opinions or have done anything bannable ever
I agree,
in my life.
Probably.
But what I am saying is that based on what I've seen, like, do you think Sneako is having a fun time being banned? Do you think looking back he is happy about that? I don't think so.
It's hard to say because
The thing is, like, on one hand, I know he knows he couldn't have gotten like nearly as big as he was or gotten any of that, like, you know, without being bannable. But at the same time, I think sometimes he looks back and he's probably like, man, fuck, I wish I was still on YouTube, man. Yeah. I think if I was him to an extent, I'd probably think back to like before the streaming stuff. He's too deep now. But, you know, he commanded a respect. He was making art. He was having fun. And now he tries to make that art, and nobody gives a fuck about it. Like, he's tried to make videos that are kind of, like, in that line. And he always has to insert this, like, retarded red pill shit into it in, like, a very haphazard way. Or I'll just take a personal example. I remember talking to Leafy about this, right? And Leafy had conversations with me and Augie about this very briefly, where he was like, man, I fucking hate being banned. Whatever you do not get banned. This fucking blows.
Bro, that's really true. Like, keep going because you're nailing it again, but go. Yeah, sorry. Leafy got fucked.
He did get fucked, and the thing is, I don't think he thought he was going to get banned. I think contrary to Sneako, I don't think he was trying to. I think he wanted the attention of like being kind of a, you know, pseudo martyr, being controversial, and certainly for the time he was getting that. But with the Pokey shit, like, does he actually care about Pokimane? I think the answer is probably not. And part of the reason that I say that is because he almost didn't have anything to say about her. Like, he kind of just constructed like the basic Reddit arguments against Pokimane, put that together and was like, Pokimane fucking sucks. For all the history parts of his videos about Pokimane, I don't know if people remember this. My video of Pokimane that at the time had like 1 million views, every substantive part of his videos was literally just clipping that and putting it into the fucking video. In the actual biggest video he had about Pokimane that had like millions of views, I think he probably talked for like 20% of it. The rest was just clips of her, clips from my video, random clips of people calling her out. He barely even knew what the fuck was going on, like, to me. I think he just saw, oh, if I shit on this person, if I'm unforgiving to her, I'll get a big audience from it, I'll get attention. And that's why the subsequent videos about Pokey, I think out of the 8 videos with her in the title, I think like 3 of them were actually about her, maybe even 2, and the rest were just random bullshit. But he knew that by using her name, he would get attention from it. And it's in the same way that back in the day, like, did he really care about the people he was roasting? His roasts were fucking uncreative bullshit for the most part. They were like not good. They were like not good. But he knew that people wanted to see him do that. He knew he could convert that into money. And, you know, this isn't like a revelatory thing. I think everybody realized this about Leafy. But then once he was banned, what was the only thing he could do to get attention? When he came back, it was tweeting about how he wanted to, you know, get rid of certain groups of people. Yeah. Does he actually want to do that or care about that? I would say no.
So, okay, so this is where we get into interesting territory. This is like the Leafy phenomenon is something I've been thinking about a lot because I have empathy for Leafy, okay? Because, like, first of all, obviously, it's not like his life is going well from the way that he presents himself. Does that make sense? Like, he's not like some guy from a position of power saying, like, all gays should, you know, XX, whatever. He's like basically and I identify this in the Sneako video, kind of expose his veil a little bit, where it's like he is a loser.
Alvin Vale, that's his name.
Yeah, but he's like a loser who is just lashing out. And so this is where we get into resentment. What is resentment? Resentment.
When you say, the thing is, when you say loser, do you mean loser in a literal sense of his life isn't going good, or do you mean loser like he lost the game?
He didn't have power. He's not powerful. That's what I mean. Okay, like he lost the game of power. Correct. Yeah, but like again, you don't ever.
Lotan in chat says it's because Leafy wants power. It makes sense now. The word power is just being used colloquially just to analyze people's intentions here. I know it sounds like retarded a little bit, but you can follow the train of thought.
Yeah, it's that's why like using.
Lotan said I fucking knew it.
Using these terms, it's like it's harder like in front of an audience who's not fully tuned in, but like. You get what I'm saying, which is like power is like ability to exert control over your life and over other people. Okay, right? Like again, this is the way that I use it. And so a guy like Leafy, he did get castrated by YouTube. Like he lost his power. Like and again, it's not this thing where he even knew. He didn't really. You were right. He did not expect to get banned. And in my opinion, that was actually a shocking ban to me because, dude. Like if we're comparing,
there's no precedent for anything like that,
bro. Like just listen to this. If we are comparing what Leafy got banned for versus Meat Canyon's Sneako video, where Sneako gets literally torn apart, Meat Canyon's video is 10 times worse than Leafy's video. Okay, 10 times. I mean that sincerely. Like
Can you explain that?
Okay, all right, pretty simple. Okay, so Leafy gets banned for a fucking animation that another guy made that Leafy just lazily tacked on at the end of a video. Okay, it's a joke animation.
You think that's what he got banned for?
That is what he got banned for.
How do you know that?
Isn't that the whole fucking thing? This is okay.
I thought YouTube didn't explicitly explain it, and they were just like he got banned for harassment.
But the last Sneako, the last Leafy video was his video on Ethan Klein where he got a strike for creator on creator simulated violence, which is exactly what I got a strike for my H3 video. So that's why
was that actually it? I didn't even remember that detail.
Okay, we can go back and vet this, but I'm pretty sure I looked into this at the time, and I think I re-looked into it like fucking 8 months ago. But anyway, other people can confirm this, but if you look up the last Leafy video, there is an animation of Ethan Klein dying at the end, but it is in such it's like so obviously just stupid kind of satire. But here's the big things, the like reasons you could say like, oh, this is like a legitimate threat. Again, Leafy didn't make this, he just added it at the end of a video, but it basically shows it's a creepypasta type vibe. It's creepy as fuck. There's creepy music, whatever. It's creepy animation too, because it's like really shitty animation. Anyway, and then it's basically just like text to speech, Ethan talking, and then it pans over and there's just a horse beside him, basically. Okay, and then Leafy enters the picture somehow, and it's like Leafy worships reptilians because that was like an old fucking meme. And so Leafy's like, yes, Ethan, I'm going to fucking, I'm gonna get you, Ethan. And then Leafy does some fucking like demon chant. Okay, and then Ethan willingly, this is all animated and it's really shittily animated, and this leads to Ethan just walking voluntarily up a hill and jumping off of the cliff, and that's basically the end of the animation. That's how the video ends. Okay, now you can say maybe that is like offensive, or you can say many things about this, but the end of the day, if you're comparing it to Meat Canyon's video about Sneako, it quite literally is explicitly making fun of Sneako's girlfriend is literally getting fucked right behind him, and then Sneako turns around and Charlie is at the door with like whatever it is, maybe a gun or it's just his hair, I'm not sure. And Sneako, literally, you see it like so fucking vividly. Sneako's freaking out and he gets torn apart by Charlie, literally on camera, like obviously murdered or whatever. And so in my mind, that's way more targeted, way more views. That got so many views. But you know why YouTube doesn't give a fuck? Because Sneako has no power. Does that make sense? Like Sneako has, he has already lost the power game. Nobody gives a fuck. The question
is, like, why would they particularly care about Ethan Klein?
Well, the thing is that he does have power. First of all, he is kind of like on that Daily Wire wave. This is not me confirming any conspiracy. Wave? No. I mean that in the sense that he has. He's kind of a verified creator, or he was at that time. Let's be clear, he was at that time. He's kind of lost that because he is a little bit edgy. Like he has remember when he had like a beef with Ben Shapiro because he made a joke, like Ethan Klein made a joke, and then Ben Shapiro I don't know if he bitched to the fucking YouTube. I don't know what happened there, but basically there was a point though where Ethan Klein did have like a amicable, solid relationship with YouTube. He met obviously the CEO, and that's not me being a conspiracy theorist. It's just that he had a relationship with them, right? That is somewhat like that does, again, your connections.
For the CEO to even visit you, you have to be safe enough, right?
Yeah, and it's like exactly, and the CEO, if the CEO visits you, they are going to want to look out for the people that the CEO came into contact with, because again, these are influencers, right?
Well, it's like she hung out with him. Like, what a bad look would it be if that guy got banned?
Yeah, and it's funny because YouTube is so bad at fucking paying attention that they she met Shane Dawson, she met fucking James Charles, and like all these people ended up you know, having big controversies.
Shane Dawson is like hilarious, dude.
Yeah, but that's why the CEOs and whatever of YouTube, they don't really talk to anybody unless they're really vetted now. But anyway, the point though is that like, I'm not saying again that Ethan Klein did anything. I don't know. That's the big thing. But the big thing is that someone at YouTube did take down my video. Somebody at YouTube did take down Leafy's, right? And so what's the reason for that? Well, yeah, I mean, Sneako, again, doesn't have any power as far as YouTube is concerned. And H3, at the very least, has more, right? Just and again, just he has more than Sneako or Leafy did, right? Now, that's not, again, I just want to really emphasize, I'm not saying there's any conspiracy. That's just kind of the relationship. Does that make sense?
Okay, sure. People in my chat are saying you're a pseudo-intellectual. How do you feel about that?
I mean, that's fine. You can, like, okay, you can totally think that. But if you actually listen to what I'm saying, the big thing is, is what I'm saying coherent, right? Like, that's why I was testing Ice Poseidon. Like,
I think so.
Okay, thank you. Like, it's one thing if you just randomly tuned in and you don't understand where we came from, but like, my big thing is to identify pseudo-intellectualism. It's like, are they following a train of thought? You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because we don't have power. I like the power meme. Can we make this like a meme?
I'm trying to. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. You can lean into it as much as you want, but like...
Black power, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that they say it like that. Like, they understand, like, kind of like what the goal is.
They need power.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. Like, historically, they didn't. Which is true. Like, that's true. And then when you get into like systems, this is like, I could talk for fucking hours about this shit, but like the point is with Leafy, it's like when Leafy lost power, right? Like that was a big moment for him where he got humbled. And I don't say that as in he deserved it, but it's like he just, like that is what happens when you lose everything that you've been building or whatever. And so what did he double down on? I guess the money maybe. Like the big thing was that he always advertised that he had money. That was like a facet of power, by the way. Like Leafy was a guy who understood power to a small extent where it's like, he did hide his chin. Let's be clear. He hid his chin because he understood that the way you look actually does change the amount of power or influence that you can have. Does that make sense? Like you can,
especially if you're a bully.
Yeah, for sure. Like exactly. It was a beautiful moment because iDubbbz did exactly. Leafy's big thing was that he shit on ugly people or whatever, and so iDubbbz did hit him in his Achilles heel again. Like he exposed the thing and basically it exposed the veil that he doesn't actually have as much power as he thinks. And that was like a big spectacle.
The thing is, like, I would argue that doing the opposite is actually more beneficial, especially long term, because for Leafy, the moment he was seen as ugly, it's like it's over. But if you're allowing yourself to be more vulnerable and be seen as like unattractive or ugly in certain respects, like off the rip, then you don't have to rely on that as much. You can just rely on what you actually have to say. You know? Yeah, like which if you have something to say is important. And just at the time Leafy didn't, you know.
I mean, like, okay, again, this is not something I'm consciously aware of. Like, again, when it comes to power games, most of them are automatic. Like, again, unless it's really like a situation where people understand what's going on. But like back when I was responding to H3 or like I made my H3 video, one of the first jokes I made was that I have a big ass fucking nose, right? And that was me priming because I know like so many people they were commenting about my nose, like that was real. But also like, yes, it could be used against me.
Gokanaru.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like whatever. And it's like, I don't care about that shit because just honestly, like I put up with more like shit than like I've been on the internet too long to give a fuck, but it is a way to like semi protect yourself where it's like, okay, I'm going to make fun of myself with it first. That's a way to like that people regain power. Right. So like, again, yeah, like, okay, what power do lolcows have? They have a little bit of power. They try to hold on to it as much as they can because the power they have is that, yeah, people do watch them and they give them money, right? Like, they have a smidge of power over these fucking random weirdos who are watching them, right?
Because the attention would go away if they didn't embarrass themselves, so that's why they have to keep that up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so, when we're, again, just last time, but we bring it back to fucking Leafy, when you're on these alternate platforms, Leafy realized something. It's really hard to gain popularity or influence or power on these platforms. And so what did he do? The first thing that he did, because again, Leafy understands power games to a decent extent, especially in the context of like the public, he immediately attacked bigger creators. He immediately attacked Destiny and like showed naked photos of fucking Melina on stream or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. He immediately he immediately jumped onto the wave of hating gay people, which he understood. Like, okay, this is a wave. Sneako also jumped on this wave, but
he always has a habit of you know how in people talk about in prison, like the thing they do, the first thing they do when they get in there is they punch the biggest guy in the room in the face.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was doing with Ice Poseidon in the thing a little
Right.
bit, right? Like, yeah.
And so, like, the reason you do that is to just show, like, you're fearless, you'll fight anyone. Therefore, if you fuck with me, like, it's probably going to be worse for you. Even if I get beat up in that interaction, it's like, well, at least I fucking punched the biggest guy. I'm crazy enough to do that.
Yeah.
For Leafy, it's like, I'll punch fucking Pokimane in the face, metaphorically, because, you know, she's the forbidden safe person. He got punished for that. And then it was like, when he comes back, it's like, well, let's punch the other forbidden person, which is the concept of transsexuality, basically. Like, the one thing you can't make fun of, or then it became, I guess, the Jews or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah. And let's be clear, like, okay, YouTube does step in to protect these groups, okay? And there's different levels of sincerity that you could attribute to them. Again, when it comes to intention, it's really hard to really nail intention. But when it comes to a business, intention becomes a lot easier because, let's be clear, they are making money. That is the intention. Like, whether it's a long-term or short-sighted view, the goal is to make money. So, like, again, you can say that there are people at YouTube who empathize with the trans movement, and this is likely true. I understand, and, like, it's fucking understandable as fuck. But at the end of the day, like, they also understand that, like, advertisers do want, like, this kind of thing to not be on, like, you know, attributed to their ad, right? Like they are responding to the people who have power over them. Does that make sense? And again, it comes back to money, right? Like, the consumer, what power does the fucking consumer have over fucking Pepsi? Well, if fucking, you know, Pepsi platforms someone who hates trans people, the consumer can, like, you know, basically wield influence, because the consumer doesn't actually have any fucking real power, but they can basically collectively come together and just fucking, like, be like, we're not drinking this, we fuck this, and, like, tarnish their brand, basically. So it does come back to money at the end of the day with YouTube. So yes, like, shitting on trans people in a way that's really truly offensive is too much for advertisers. And again, the morality of it, you can debate. Like, there's so much you could say, right? Like, of course, it's, like, disrespectful, all this shit. But the reason that it gets banned is pretty simple. It's, like, a lot of risk that they take on for not much gain at all, right? Like, already, these guys who are, like, super anti-trans, they're already fucked off to other platforms. Does that make sense? Like, YouTube's not really going to gain that much by having, like, real, true, like, genuine, deep, like, public haters of trans people. But of course, they'll still platform people who they're, like, more subtle about it, if that makes sense. Like, Matt Walsh, it's funny that they tell him stop misgendering people, but they don't tell him, like, stop saying that trans people don't exist. You know what I mean? Like, they want him to stop doing the offensive thing, not to stop believing, like, something, because they don't give a fuck, right? It's the offensive thing that gets attention. Does that make sense? It's the offensive thing that, like, advertisers look at. That's the same thing with Sneako. Like, a lot of his ideas are not that crazy, and there's guys saying the same shit, but the way he said it was just not cool. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whoa! The vibe, the fucking... We're killing it. I think that realistically,
we fucking ran through 50 topics in 1 minute. So
yeah, I think that I'm maybe, like, a little bit cracked out because of that kick or keep fucking stream or whatever. But yeah, no, I definitely love these fucking conversations, bro. I like you because you do entertain shit. Does that make sense? Like I'm not really sure. Does Destiny do this as well?
What do you mean by that?
I'm not
you
super.
Mean I entertain ideas, or
yeah. Like, you'll let me go on a long ass tangent or whatever. If that makes sense.
Well, it's just like, I guess it's just like, I personally find it interesting. Obviously, the audience might find it schizo. I understand from some of the phrasing around just, like, constantly using the word power why it may get, like, okay, this is pseudo intellectual, but the actual basic stuff that you're saying is, like, I'd say demonstrably true. It's kind of hard to argue with, and even beyond that, it's just like, I personally find it enriching and interesting to have a conversation with you. So why would I shut that off just because the audience in the moment is like,
thank you, bro.
I would rather engage in that repeatedly so that I can continue to have more conversations like this, and I can actually enjoy my fucking time on stream instead of wanting to blow my brains out.
Yeah,
I don't want to be a slave.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and that, to be honest with you, that shows me that, like, you're not just a streamer, which you're not, obviously. But, like, streamers, there is this thing that happens where their brain does get fucking wired to please their chat, right? So, like, if the chat isn't enjoying a conversation, like, a streamer, they'll basically just try to end it, if that makes sense. Yeah, but no, I'm glad. But yeah, moral of the story, though, a guy like Leafy.
Well, the thing is, ultimately, like, the goal of the stream is to be able to talk about stuff that I'm interested in that
Right.
also overlaps with the audience. And so like certain times will I make concessions to that, like certainly if nobody cares about something like at all, I probably won't talk about it. But generally I have a pretty big overlap between what my viewers want me to talk about and what I want to talk about. And I would rather be able to have my own leeway to have conversations like this rather than like if it was always just what the viewers wanted, then anytime I talk about something that mildly interests me, everybody just goes away.
Yeah, yeah. And that's like it's good that you're priming your viewers with that as well, because like the more that you bend, the more you'll have to bend, if that makes sense. Like I do that to my viewers as well. Like I'm live right now and they understand already that like these streams, you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. You know what I mean? I prime them so that it's like whatever's going on, I'm in control.
You need to groom them.
Yes. Yeah. But
well, like look at like you know who Myth is? Like he was one of the biggest Fortnite dudes a while ago. Yeah. Have you seen like the tweets and videos being like, how did he fall off this bad? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, he like reacts to it and it's kind of a bit sad, but it's kind of like he's managed, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So my understanding is the reason he got big was because he was good at Fortnite. That's my understanding, right? Yeah. And basically when Fortnite was no longer the thing, nobody gave a fuck. Now I've seen some Myth streams, and to be honest with you, like he's not the most boring person in the world, but from what I've seen, he's just not the most compelling personality to listen to outside of him being good at Fortnite. And so when he fucking sucked, or sorry, when Fortnite wasn't the biggest thing in the world anymore, nobody really cared, Ninja wasn't doing it for a little bit. It was just like, why even watch this guy? And so he lost it all. And so the problem with that, I think, is he unconsciously banked his entire career on being good at Fortnite. And when it didn't really matter to be that good in Fortnite and you had to be more of a personality, people didn't care that much anymore. And I think Ninja doesn't really have that problem as much. Yeah,
Ninja does have that problem, but not to the same degree, I guess. Because the thing with Ninja is Mixer really overestimated Ninja's power, if that makes sense. Like I know it's a meme, but just like
keep putting the word in.
I think it's kind of just funny to keep dropping it. Like it'll become a meme. Agree. But anyway, whatever. Ninja basically, he did have like some influence, but like it was such surface level influence, right? Because it's like people liked him because he was popular at the game. The big thing with Ninja though is that he had an audience prior to popping off at Fortnite. Does that make sense? Like he wasn't just
some viewership.
Yeah, he had a core audience from the guy was a professional Halo player for fucking 10 years before Fortnite popped off. You know what I mean? And so Ninja was he had a core audience that was real. All this stuff. He also had like he did make a ton of money, you know what I mean? Brands, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, like his actual power over his audience was not as strong enough to like carry Mixer. You know what I mean?
They thought he was gonna like make that level.
Yeah, exactly. They thought that he was actually powerful. If that made like, again, I'm just gonna keep saying it, but like they thought that he had the power to get other people onto Mixer, right? Like to influence other people's decisions, and in reality, to change other people's decisions. But like in reality, it's just like he's just kind of an influencer. You know what I mean? Like he can only kind of sway people a little bit. Like
there's a funny clip of him when he was live on Mixer. The Twitch awards or some shit were going on. I don't know what the fuck it was. Maybe the streamer awards. I don't know what it was, but some streamer convention where Blink 182 was playing live, and I think he was like a fan of them. And Blink on stage was like, "Fuck Mixer." And he was like, wait, what the fuck? And he got kind of pissed about it. And it was clear that like, I think that's just kind of an unrelated funny note. It doesn't really connect here, but they basically were banking a lot on the success of him and just like him alone. And I think the problem is like, obviously he had friends, but let's say if he had kind of a community around him where there was like kind of a unique thing, there could have been a bunch of streamers to go there, which I think that like Kick capitalized on a little more by taking people like Aiden Ross, because there's like people peripheral to him who like stream with him all the time. Ninja didn't have as much of this like wave that he came up on. It was kind of just Ninja blew the fuck up.
Yeah, and let's be clear, like Ninja has kind of joked that like he was glad Mixer died, and that's true and that's false. So like Ninja definitely believed and definitely hoped that Mixer would pop off, right? Because then he would be like at the ground level, he would have so much power, so much control over this thing that he helped to raise up. But when he realized that his viewership was shit and that it wasn't really working, he was happy that it collapsed, because then he could go back to Twitch and he could receive the money. You know what I mean? But like his hope wasn't. It was definitely that he wanted it to work. You know what I mean? Ninja's an interesting example, because like here's the big thing: when you try to have influence over kids really change quickly, okay? Like they really do. And so you can lose that really quickly, if that makes sense. Like
yeah, because they outgrow shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, and that's why like bro, Sneako literally targets kids, and it's like of course he does, because any adult will like think he's a dumbass, right? Like he kind of has to, but it is so short-sighted in a way, because it's like, yeah, I mean, once they get socialized, right? Like once they're basically like having to like actually try to attract women or like talk to people at their school or whatever. Yeah, I mean the JQ or whatever like meme like stupid ass shit that Sneako does that like attracts people, that's like not going to seem that cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're very fleeting. Well, that's why like the thing about him that I said which was like it's all edge and no point. I think he thought he had a point, or he thought he was writing something, but Andrew Tate, to his credit, at the very least, he has like a coherent philosophy around what he wants to do. It's not like a good one, but he does have like I mean, once again, like this like hunt or be hunted type thing is kind of a thing that's coherent with his life, and he maintains that. Sneako is not really in a position to hunt anyone.
So this is where, okay, I'm glad you're bringing it back, because I kind of did just venture out a bit, but yeah, so bring it back to Tate. Tate is interesting because I said this earlier, but people might get whiplash now if they just join. But like I said, Tate has a predator mindset, okay? And I do mean that in more of like the animalistic way, but you could attribute it to like, you know, being a literal whatever predator. But anyway,
basically, the deal with Tate is like when he talks about his philosophy seems kind of like a juxtaposition, like an oxymoron. Because on one hand, he's like OnlyFans is evil, but on the other hand, he profits directly from OnlyFans. And how do you see that?
And do you know
the way he reconciles that is because he sees the world as like unchangeable. People are what they are. All you can do is exist within that paradigm, basically. And so therefore, it's fine for him to simultaneously profit off of the misery of these young men with the OnlyFans, while also giving them advice.
And so,
because he sees himself as just like, he exists within this system. He diagnoses the problem and is like, well, all you can do is be a symptom.
Yeah. And that's like, let's be clear. Tate today pretends that like he has morals, and okay, maybe I believe that he has some principles, okay? Principles are a bit different than morals, but whatever. I believe he has principles, okay? But let's be clear, when he didn't have what he wanted, he was more than willing to sacrifice or do whatever to his principles. Like, again, when I talk about the predator mindset, I'm talking about someone, okay, let's put it in you'll laugh, but like, let's put it in a Nietzschean concept. So like here we
go.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
The fucking philosopher Nietzsche, what he called this predator mindset was basically the will to power, which basically means how willing are you to just take what you want and not deal with the blowback and not give a fuck, right? Like, and so he'll say, if you are somebody who judges other people for taking what is rightfully theirs, because if you have the power, then it's rightfully yours. If you are someone who judges people for that, then you have slave morality. Okay, Nietzsche would fucking like dog on Christianity, because he would say that Christians have slave morality, because instead of basically taking power for themselves, Christians will look at people with power and they'll be like, you're evil, you're going to hell. You know what I mean? They'll judge them and they'll get like a sick satisfaction from it. That was his claim. But like, if we're talking will to power, Tate is a manifestation of the will to power to an incredible extent. This guy, think about it. This guy's story, what amazed me was that he was actually kind of being honest. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much poverty he experienced as a kid, but what does seem true is that his dad was a dickhead. His dad hit him. His dad was like very flighty. His dad left them at a young age. They probably did go through some hardship. They did join boxing gyms or kickboxing gyms. They did, or at least Tate did become, I believe, the #1 official, kickboxer in the world for a time. And that is indicative of someone who has a massive will. And on top of that, Tate gets to the top of his goal. His goal was to become the best kickboxer. And then he realizes, fuck, I've mastered the domain of physical power, which again is like the base level. It's like the lowest level of power, because
I still don't have money. I still don't have anything.
Once again, this is the big thing you need to understand about fighters. When you are fighting, when you are choosing violence, you are trying to regain power. You don't have it when you're fighting, right? So like someone who really has power does not need to fight. That's real. And so Tate...
Well, it's just like Sean Strickland talks about the reason he fights. It's basically because of trauma, right?
Yeah, I mean, it probably gives him a sense of like, power, right? Like,
it gives you a sense of like just control over your situation.
Yeah, like that, and that is a real thing, bro. Like, let's be clear, people who had fucked up lives, a big part of why they like fighting is because it's simple. You really It's just a physical domain, right? And in this context, they are powerful. Do you get it? But like when we're talking about real power, this is why when Tate talks about the Matrix, he is talking about people with real power. Okay, that is what it is. So like Tate understands levels of power, and he understands that he is actually a exception to the rule. He's a glitch. It's true. He's a glitch in the Matrix because he came from kind of nothing, and he actually made, you know, money and whatever, got success, got famous, all this shit. And so he maxed out all the power that he kind of could, but he realized that there's a cap, and that cap does come with institutions. Okay, institutional power is unmatchable. It's so difficult to fight.
Well, because he got fucking arrested, right? You can't escape that unless you're fucking, I don't know, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. And exactly, institutional power is extremely real. And the reason that guys like Tate dog on it so much is because he will never have institutional power. Does that make sense? Probably. He's trying, kind of, maybe, but like realistically, he probably won't. And so and again, keep in mind, he tried to have institutional power. Big part of why he moved to Romania, he literally says this, was because
it's corrupt. He thought he could get
exactly. They were onto him. There was like a little bit of heat in fucking England, and so he moved to Romania, right? And where he thought he would be able to kind of infiltrate and get a little bit more power. But what's Tate's problem? Tate, he's so used to getting what he wants that he got so uncareful that what he ended up wanting was influence. Okay, so he's a guy who he just wants what he wants. So how do you get influence? Well, you say outrageous shit, obviously, right? Like, what the fuck?
Today, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, today,
because it's the attention economy. You just need people to look.
Yes, and so Tate got to this point where he was so honest, but also exaggerating, but also kind of honest, where it's like he's like actually saying, you know, in his videos where it's like, yeah, of course I bribe Romania. And a part of it is that he wants to come off like he's smart. But again, he is smart, but only in the games of power, right? He forgets about being examined. If you're examined, right, that's when institutions start to pay attention. Because if you're examined, that implies that you're kind of influencing other people, right? This is the thing. There's a difference between being an influencer and having actual power. Tate wasn't an influencer, but he was building up his power level. But then when he became an influencer, he entered like a whole other league of power games, right? Like he didn't understand, oh, fuck, I created a course about how to pimp out women. God damn it. If he could, he would lie like a fucking easily as hell about how he got his money. He doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? It is all about, and again, Willie Mack exposes this extremely well. Like even while he's in prison, like Tate, again, smart, understands power, but not that smart, like strategically. He's in prison talking to people.
He tried to bribe like a senator.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And he also was saying like, we got to keep this girl silent, all this shit. He was doing, you know, again, he was trying to impose his power on these people from jail, but he was forgetting institutional power. Fuck, they tapped the phone lines. I'm not, like, I can't compete with these fucking institutions.
That just seems like so retarded that he wouldn't even consider that.
Yeah, but he's not used to it.
He's not like an unintelligent person, you know?
You're correct. You're 100% correct. But that's why he refers to it as like the Matrix. It's like this ambiguous term. And what is the Matrix? It's just like basically the institutions that
anything he can't
exactly
stop from closing in on him. Yeah,
anything he can't get power over. Okay, and so yes, the reason that I think Tate is
Biden.
Facts. The reason that Tate is kind of interesting is because he is a true predator, like in the sense that he is playing the power game in a very real way, okay? And so now that he has maxed out on influence, he's kind of trying his best to like use that influence to kind of leverage his power a little bit. It's not really working because, again, when you're dealing with institutions, influence doesn't do fucking anything. We kind of know this. You know what I mean? Influence is kind of fake power in a way because, again, you can get people to do things, but you can only like kind of lean shit your way when it comes to it. Like an institution's like a fucking brick wall. You know what I mean? Like, and if like influence is basically having like wind power to like direct a fucking sailboat, like the sailboat's still gonna fucking hit the brick wall, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, the problem with these institutions is they're so big, they're so complicated, they're so regimented. There's so many members of it that like one person cannot tear it down.
Yeah, it's literally a fortified castle.
It's like the problem people have with like the gun lobby and trying to dismantle it. It's like the problem isn't necessarily even the idea that like people can lobby for gun rights and stuff, because if you actually look like comparably, gun companies lobbying and shit like this and like these super PACs or whatever does not contribute that much money, right? It doesn't contribute that much money to the American political system compared to other issues. Like pharmaceutical companies are way larger. The actual thing to point out here is people just like guns and they want to own them. There's more guns than people in the United States, and you cannot stop, you know, just the basis. And this isn't even like a literal institution that's like fucking like brick and mortar. This is just the people's will and their fucking wants to have the right to own these guns.
And you know what's funny? Sorry, but go on. Keep the tangent.
I basically finished my point. I'm having a hard time explaining, but I think I've made some coherent point. Maybe 2 hours of myopic yapping. Can we get some callers? No, yeah, maybe after this, I'll take a few.
Yeah, you're good. I won't make it much longer. But like, you were absolutely onto something when you bring up guns. That's a fascinating example, and it's like, yes, there are people who absolutely like enjoy having guns. It's like a fun thing, and it is. Let's be very clear. Like, America's foundation is on revolution. Okay. It's on domination. Does that make sense? Like, that is the foundation.
It's actually on being dominated and like coming out of it. No,
but let's be real. Like, okay, so the foundation of America was taking the land. First of all, that was the first thing. But yes, then you're correct that the following thing was realizing, oh fuck, the British are taking advantage of us. Like, the upper classes of America, which was like George Washington, Thomas Edison, these guys, they understood like, fuck, they're taxing us, but they don't provide any benefit. What the fuck? So they basically did this successful revolution. So like, the foundation of America was kind of on like fighting for, you know, the right to basically do what you want. Does that make sense? Like, without having any higher fucking authority above you, right? And so like, yeah, when we're talking about guns, dude, let's put it like this. People understand that having a gun makes you instantly powerful, okay? And like, I'm not putting this in like a way where it's like I'm pro or anti-gun, but it is a very real thing that if you're an individual who owns guns, you, if shit goes the worst it possibly can, you technically have more power than, you know, somebody who doesn't have guns, right? So the gun lobby is interesting because a big part, and this is kind of facts, but like a big part of the people who want to get rid of guns, and again, it makes total sense. They do want a more safe environment. They do want less like, you know, chaotic activity. That makes sense. But it also is kind of an understanding of like, guns can act as leverage against the institutions, right? Like, the big thing was Americans took up arms against the institution of fucking England.
Well, that's the reason people don't want to give it up, is
exactly
the possibility that the government could infringe on some right that like you would need to take up arms to defend that.
So like, guns are fun. Like people do think they're fun, and like, I'm gonna find out hopefully eventually, but like, we'll see. The thing is though, what people need to understand is that like, people also understand like, it is a safety type of like power thing that people perceive. They're like, dude, if they start taking away my guns, like, they can do anything to me.
What the fuck else are they going to take away?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Guns are an interesting thing because I view it as like nukes, right? Like, why haven't we, I mean, this is just a blanket statement, but like, what stops us from invading Russia? They have a nuke.
Well,
you know
okay.
what I mean?
Well, the nuke question, the reason we have nukes is because other people do. And
exactly.
It's already open.
And
that's the problem with guns. We need guns because the cops also have them.
Yes, exactly.
If only the cops have them, who's to say that
exactly
won't seriously fuck our life up, you know?
And the state wants the cops to have a monopoly on violence. Like I said, like, if you fight a cop, you die. Like, that's what the state would ideally want. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones who enforce the rules.
That is what happens.
Yeah, it is what happens, exactly. But yeah, so like, you know, that's why the gun battle is so difficult, because it really truly is a situation where people, like, again, the gun lobby, yeah, but like, a lot of people really, and of course there is a business around it, like, this is a real thing too, like, the people make money on it, but individuals, they understand, like, without a gun I'm less powerful, you know what I mean? Anyway, okay, fuck, I don't know if that was too much yapping, but
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
God bless, bro.
For people asking for callers, this is better than any fucking caller I've ever had.
Yo
50% of callers are, I didn't expect to be pulled in here, and the other fucking 50% are, can you help me with my YouTube channel? So shut the fuck up.
God bless.
Shut the fuck up.
They literally have a guy bleeding out and fucking spitting pseudo-psychology, whatever the fuck they think it is, and they're like bitching, bro. Come on, what's going on?
Complaining. Jesus.
You're fucking, it's because you're Tom, you should have been fucking playing Fortnite, bro. What the hell?
I was playing Fortnite the entire time.
Oh, my bad. Okay, you're good then. All right. Fuck it. Anyway, thank you, chat. God bless. I'm sure, realistically, even, especially people watching the VOD, because like, a lot of the chat probably tuned in like halfway through this. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation. That was fun as fuck. Thank you, bro.
Jesus says, I like this convo. # not all chatters. I fucking agree.
God bless.
Yeah, all right. Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah, true. Oh, fuck, yeah. Dude, okay, so I'm trying to, fuck. Bring it back. Okay. I'm trying to become powerful, at the very least, so that I can protect myself. And so one of the ways that I realize I need to gain power, I want to rely less on YouTube ads and YouTube, because I've gotten strikes. Like, I have a strike on my channel for content I've made. And so the way that I do that is by diversifying through Gokanaru.com. So I have this fucking hoodie that I sell. And I'm trying to like build this as like a real company because this is what Mudahar.
I thought you were gonna shout out your fucking YouTube channel, asshole.
Bro, okay, is this fucked up? Okay, true. Yeah, that is fucked up.
No. I'm just kidding. It's good. It's good.
Okay, but yes.
Merch.com, check it out. Buy the Bad Faith line.
Dude, fuck yeah, thank you. But my bad. You're right.
Unless you're a pussy.
But if you enjoyed this conversation, you should definitely watch my Sneako video.
Buy his merch if you hate trans people.
No. Okay, but watch the Sneako video, and if you want to understand, like, this is like me expounding on my schizophrenic thoughts, but the Sneako video is like really refined version of that. Does that make sense? So like, yes, thank you. The channel's Gokanaru, and yeah, God bless Tom. Thank you, bro. That was fun as fuck.
Thanks for coming on, bro. Yeah, it was. Thank you, and yeah, have a good night. Take it easy.
Likewise.